I'm Jason Klom, and this is the Comedy on Vinyl podcast. The year is 1979. The album, the Chicago language tape, and other aberrations of El Fiendo in glorious mono. The artist, Yuri Rozovsky, and my guest is Jared Jeffries, live from not here. Thanks for doing the show finally.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a long time in the making.
I know. So I first found out about you and your work, which, full disclosure, I'm sort of semi-releasing in terms of, you can sort of buy your album through my website, Celery Sound Records.
Yeah, in theory, it's for sale.
Yeah, it's true. You sent it to me by mail a while ago, and just saying, hey, maybe you'll enjoy this album. That album, by the way, is A Gift You Never Asked For from Friends You Never Had by Jared and Peyton Brown. And it's a great album, and it's fun, and it's insane. And I did, by the way, forward it to the gentleman at Firesign Theater. I don't know if you heard back from them or not, but I did send it to them. But yeah, I do love your comedy, and I've been.
Yeah, I was able to through your show to have a. I was able to talk to Taylor on the phone, Taylor Jessen on the phone for quite some time, and that was
good.
Just going through all that old comedy nerd stuff. I love it.
He is the man to talk to, and I mean he's a guy with a much deeper comedy reservoir than I will in terms of certain types of comedy. Anyway, that's.
Well, yeah, I mean I'm a huge comedy nerd, and it's really rare to meet somebody who's gonna nerd out on it harder than me, and he knows every. I mean, just the depth of knowledge there, and the depth of commitment to finding out is incredible with him.
Yeah, it's I love that so much about just hanging out with him. Every time it's that way. I think he gets that I'm most of the time sitting back and not responding because I literally have nothing to contribute, but I do want to keep listening. But I almost never have anything to contribute. So there you go, Taylor. There's your shout out this week. Not that you even expected or asked for it, but you deserve it. But yeah, so you sent me your album a long time ago, and I loved it. I still love it, by the way, just full disclosure. And and you have a clear Firesign influence among other people, but I'm curious what made you pick this insane thing that I cannot explain.
Pick which aspect is? You want to know why we picked it?
It's I don't know. The Chicago language tape is kind of I don't know what it is. I mean, I know what it is, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah. So I spent a lot of time. So I live in New York right now. I live in Brooklyn at the moment, but I spent many years, 7 or 8 years in Chicago, and that's where my whole comedy resume basically still lies. So I love Chicago very much, and I picked up this record having never heard any. I have no information about it really outside of what's on the LP jacket and a little bit of Wikipedia basically. Got it at the best chain of record stores in Chicago. All of a sudden it's escaping me, but anyways, I'm just a big comedy nerd. I've always loved non-stand-up comedy records because most stand-up that's all they are. It's just a record of that performance. And a lot of times there's film footage of those performances anyways. So just these weird little things that people will put out occasionally that have more conceptual things to them I've always been into. So I'm always scouring the comedy sections of different record stores. And a lot of times you just end up with a lot of party records, a lot of Wild Man Steve and stuff like that. The same, Mom's Mabel. You're coming up with a lot of the same names over and over and over again, the same Cheech and Chong records. And so when you find something that you haven't seen, it's pretty exciting. I'm sure you know that. But so I got this. I'm like, wow, something local. And checked it out. I actually really like it a lot. It's a really interesting artifact of the time and kind of back when radio DJs were a big deal in the 70s. And kind of a little snapshot of some cool things that were going on in Chicago at the time. And also, just from Chicago history, everything is so dominated in that time period, at least, by the Second City. This is really the only thing you hear about out of
Sure.
Chicago, and yeah, for decades. And there's other things going on, and it's really cool to get a little taste of that.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess it should be no surprise that there are elements of this album that remind me of a lot of the other stuff of the period. I mean, it's unavoidable that a lot of comedy albums, especially if they're sketch, are going to have let's play with the form of audio drama. And I mean, especially since this again comes from a DJ, comes from people on radio. That's shit that they grew up on. It's
Yeah,
unavoidable.
yeah, oh, totally. And specifically, these are folks that were working in audio drama at the time. So, with the tiny amount of information I'm able to get out there about Yuri Rozovsky and the Chicago radio theater, I mean, that's what they did was they did dramatizations of, and that's really what he had kind of committed himself to. Eventually, I think he moved to L.A. and did some work out there as well, founded a theater. But, that was their thing. And so they're on a classical music station. And doing those kinds of works, and I imagine that it's mostly very serious stuff, and so you want to let your hair down and do some goofy stuff every now and then. It's amazing that they were able to do that stuff on the air, do some goofy stuff, but it was the 70s, and there was freeform radio, there was a lot of experimentation, kind of open formats, a lot of freedom that personalities would have to do what they want, so we get this fun little record out of it. I wish more people were able to hear it, so I'm glad that I'm able to kind of bring it to folks' attention, because I figured I wanted to do it on your show just because I don't think anybody else is going to bring this one out.
No, I don't think so either. I had never heard of it. It has not come up since you originally mentioned it. It is, I mean, it has literally no label. It was not released on a label.
No, as far as I can tell, yeah.
I'm guessing he paid for it himself. That is my guess. It's usually what we have to count on.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's the series, yeah, NRT 7901, so yeah, maybe National Radio Theater, it's 1979, their first release. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And so it starts out with, well, the title track, which is the Chicago language tape, which is, it's interesting. So I've looked that up a lot and found references to it quite a bit. Apparently it is considered a classic in Chicago, even though a lot of the stereotypes that it plays with are not accurate anymore. I'm curious.
Yeah, some of them have changed a bit. Yeah,
it's one of those things where I'm listening to it. I'm like, okay, I mean, I get the bit. I'm not sure the point. I read one review of it that said, "Oh, well, this is they're making fun of those stereotypes." I'm like, "Are they?" I'm not sure. So I'm curious how you peg that track.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. I mean, it's a very local piece, and I love that.
Yes.
I see. Back in the day, there used to be a lot more independent. It's weird. Okay, so the thing is, I feel like media now, everything's really dominated by stuff that comes out of LA and New York, and people can make stuff anywhere, and when they do, they're making it for a global audience. People want to be a big hit on YouTube or whatever.
Sure.
People watch them everywhere, but there used to be, I feel like you could be a big deal in Detroit and have a record and sell a lot of records in Detroit, or you could be in, wherever, Minneapolis, and be a big deal in Minneapolis, and nobody's heard of you anywhere else, but you're a big, big deal in Minneapolis. And so I love that this bit seems to be sort of a hit among Chicagoans that is
Yeah.
very much just for Chicagoans. Now, as for the stereotyping in it, so the defense of anybody who's doing any sort of ethnic or otherwise stereotype is always going to be, well, I'm parroting the idea of there being a stereotype. And that's, sometimes that is the case, or you could make that, I mean, that's not always. I mean, look, it's we're having fun with some ethnic voices or whatever at points. I mean, it was just something that was acceptable. I'll say this much, that it was certainly not always the case that there are certain ethnicities that just trying to do the accent is considered offensive.
Right.
Yeah, but you will hear on this, so there's a point at which a guy's doing sort of a Chinese accent, and you can hear a little bit of the audience is uncomfortable. But they love the gay voice that he does.
Yes, they do. Boy, oh boy, they go
love
crazy
it.
for that one.
And it's and you know what it is though. What they're laughing at is not you're making fun of the way gay people talk. What they're laughing at the recognition that it is meant to be a gay voice, and the idea that we don't really talk about it, but that's the gay area.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
You know
Like
that
it's the idea that
that's not
somebody's
something I had
saying it.
considered.
Yeah. So we should explain what this is, though.
Yes.
And I hope that maybe you'll play a clip of it or something. But it's a wonderful piece. What I love about this piece is that it's just the simplicity of it, and it reminds me of as someone who's doing comedy, just that's all you need. Literally, what this is it's meant to be like a language tape, and we've all heard a million bits based on language tapes. But they'll say the name of it's places. So this side of the tape is place names or street names. So he's just saying the names of different intersections in Chicago twice as if it's in a foreign language, but each time he's saying it with a different sort of accent or a different way of speaking that says something about that area. And that's all he's saying is just the names of streets in Chicago. There's no other thing to it, and it's clever. There's some of it, is okay. There's and some of them I can't even honestly tell you exactly what they are because I don't
Right.
really get the reference. Just the one of them's just the dumb guy voice, and I guess we're just making fun of people who live in that neighborhood. But yeah, there's Polish areas. There's Lincoln Square is still kind of has some German stuff up there. There's that with stereotypical like Nazi sort of voice, and yeah, Cermak Road. Yeah, this is in Chinatown. Clark and Diversey, still kind of in Boys Town, so the gay area. I would move that. You'd move that maybe to Halstead now or something. But there's clever stuff. The audience loves his Doppler effect he does.
Yes.
For O'Hare Field and Miggsfield, which doesn't exist anymore due to the either tyrantism or heroism of Mayor Daley, depending on who you ask. Such a great little button on it.
Uh-huh.
That little plop into the water. If you're familiar with Miggsfield,
Not at all. I only lived in Chicago for 2 years, so my level
I didn't even realize you lived in Chicago. That's great.
Yeah, for college.
Okay, yeah. Well, Miggsfield was a tiny little airfield that I guess mainly very rich people used. It was right on the lakefront, right in the middle of downtown.
There we are. Holy shit.
So it's extremely convenient and cool to fly into the middle of downtown Chicago on the lake.
Of
but
course.
Also, the whole lakefront really is meant to be just for public access as part of the Burnham Plan. So it was eventually destroyed by... in the middle of the night, the mayor sent bulldozers to just cut giant X's into the runway to destroy it, so it was unfixable.
Wow.
So that they would have to give it back to the city. It's a pretty weird story. I don't know that much about it, but anyways, it's right on the lake, so hence the little sound effect at the end. It's a little cute little button. But that's actually, apparently, I think on all the Microsoft flight simulators, that was always the default airport you would take off from was Mig.
That's funny. Okay, that you know what? That now it sounds familiar. Now that's making a little bit of sense.
Yeah, we're gonna do mainly Chicago history and fun facts today.
How now? And I apologize. Are you originally from Chicago, or did you just live there for an extended period?
I'm from Indiana originally. So I grew up in southern Indiana and went to college in Indiana, and then after that moved to Chicago to basically perform at the IO Theater and ended up doing other stuff too until about 2.5 years ago.
Interesting. Okay, so I did not. Now I'm wondering. This would take forever, but I'm guessing you and I probably know a lot of people. We probably have a few mutual friends anyway. Since the IO is the only place I would ever go see comedy when I lived in Chicago for those. Yeah, 2 years.
There are probably people that you are acquaintances with that I will know enough that they'll go like, oh yeah, I've seen that guy before.
right.
But won't remember my name. Yeah, that's the case. I'm one of those people who certainly, because you were there before me. It sounds like that the people who are around who were kind of a big deal when I was coming up, I just didn't even want to talk to them. I was just like, you know what, I'm not worthy. You just, I've got no business dealing with. I'll just stay over here and and talk to people that are on my level. Yeah.
Yeah. I got you. Well,
So yeah, it becomes that the weird, embarrassing thing where after like 8 years, you're like, you've never had a conversation with this person. You're like, no, we've just been in the same room 10,000 times.
that's so funny. I don't know how I would be if I was having to. Yeah, that's the weird thing. Is like I can act like I've got all these guts to invite people on my podcast when it's real easy when you're not in a room with them watching them perform and you're supposed to take a respectful distance. I don't need to do that for this
Yeah.
podcast. I don't need to take any respectful distance. I just send out an email, hope it works out. I think the only person who that I can remember who was there who ended up becoming famous that I saw and met and had like a dinner with once. So it's not like we had a relationship. Was John Lutz, and
Mm.
so I definitely saw him perform, and he was a fucking genius. So I get why he moved on to doing what he did. But
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely one of the best in the world. Yeah, I've actually, yeah, he was gone by the time I got there, but I'd seen him perform several times. But I do I did want to commend you for finally working up the courage to have me on the show, and thanks for not being too afraid.
yeah, no, it took a lot. I mean, you've got to understand. I've put out feelers to Weird Al, to Cheech and Chong, to the
Yeah.
Smothers Brothers, to your Steve Martins, your Eddie Murphys. And then the whole time, I mean, the challenge is how do I finally ask Jared to do my podcast?
Yeah, well,
And
that's the thing is that there's a reason why I'm not on more podcasts. It's just because the general cowardice of the population. We don't raise strong people anymore. There's no good role models. So.
And in listening to the rest of this, I mean, again, I there might be some deep cuts on this that I'm missing, but in general, it's real easy to at least get the idea. Okay, cool. They're parodying radio programming, specifically either public radio or classic music radio, and then playing with the form of radio dramas and children's serials from the 40s and shit. And so it's pretty easy to peg what they're doing because we've heard it a million other times. But I'm curious in listening to it, the stuff that you hear that's different, because I mean, there are a few things that I notice that are clearly different than other like fire signs, etc. But I'm curious what stands out to you other than obviously that first really memorable To Chicago People track. What stands out to you about the rest of it?
Well, okay, yeah. So to me, it's very different from those things. Like I'm a huge Fire Sign fan, which is interesting. Like we were working on what became our record for quite some time before I finally got around to listening to the Fire Sign Theater, and it's because
Really?
oh yeah. And that's why it became a record, though. It was going to be a stage show, and then so really, if you listen to our record, the second half of it is a lot more makes sense. It's the second half was definitely written as a record, whereas the first half of it, a lot of it is adapted from things that would have been part of a stage show. So it makes
Interesting.
yeah, the second side I think works a lot better because of that. But and I can get more into that later. But let's talk about this record here. Is so the thing about this is that okay, so the first one, the Chicago Language, I'm just going through the tracks here. The Chicago Language tape is the only thing on the record that's done live, and I kind of love that, again, that we can just have a mixture of things on here. This feels like sort of, this would have been, the way a lot of DJs would put something out, it might be sort of a greatest hits. We've done a lot of little sketches on the radio. Here's our favorite ones that people ask about, we'll put on a record or whatever. So, we have two of these great moments in literature, which I think are a lot of fun, but yeah, are similar to some other things you might hear out there where it's, in both cases, lots of little jokes in there, but it's all a big setup for a little payoff. The third one, the Jewish horror movie, it's just a straight up street joke.
Yes.
With a long, like, Shaggy Dog setup for what it actually is. Which I don't like this track very much, but I do in general like those kind of things where it's like, what was this? What are we doing here? Oh, the whole thing was a setup for this dumb little payoff. I kind of love the audacity of like, you bastards, like you had me, you had me sit here for that. Like I love it. Safe Place. So here we go. So A Safe Place. And this is the one with the different writing credits on in here by Carol Adgerin. So the one thing written by a woman, as far as I know here, this one is very different because it feels to me like an old-fashioned Second City sketch. Would you agree?
Yeah. No, that I hadn't pegged that, but yeah, that makes sense.
It's not jokey at all. It's a very slice of life thing, and what I love about it is the very it's a very good performance.
Yeah.
The acting in it is this really terrific radio acting that sounds like the stuff you would hear in the 50s. We're just not that it sounds ultra realistic, it's just really pro actors. And again, with that, there used to be high level radio actors in different cities around America, and there isn't that sort of thing now. Or even, television
Right.
actors, they all move to the coast at a certain point. And I just love this sort of, as a comedy fan, this sort of document of a certain kind of scene and a certain kind of performance style, done from that era, and just to kind of have a little snapshot of that.
Yeah,
Side
I
two,
will
yeah.
admit thoroughly when listening to it, I think my first thought was, okay, is this played as written, or is there? I think I get too cynical sometimes with this stuff, where I'm like, okay, but are they making fun of this style of acting? Are they doing this? But I like your take on it better, where it's like, no, legitimately, this is the bit we wanted to put on. We're not making fun of necessarily anything in particular. This is 100%. It's I don't know. It doesn't have the same satire feel as some of the other stuff, I guess, is
Yeah,
what I'm saying.
I think
It
it's very gentle. I would say it's not even particularly funny. It's more just like gently agreeable. It's
Yes, right.
yeah, it's sort of just pleasant more than it is funny. Someone might smile. It's something that, like, if it were in a show or whatever, and your mom saw it, and she'd go like, "Oh, that was cute." It's like that kind of thing. And I like that that can exist. Everything now it's got to have some big twist where it's like, if you had that scene, you'd have to have the end. But it turns out, like, oh, they're actually psycho killers, and they're pretending, they're sort of treating it like it's all mundane, but really there's some awful, horrible thing going on under it, or whatever.
Right, right.
Or right now, sketch comedy is so dominated by these ideas that I don't know where. I know where they claim to have gotten them, but I don't know where they actually got them from. Like the UCB, for who are, this idea of everything has game, 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 and you can say, there's certainly some truth to that, but I think sometimes when people emphasize that too much and they become so narrowly focused on that,
Yeah.
it creates one specific kind of scene over and over again. And when I
Yeah.
say this reminds me of an old-fashioned Second City scene, not necessarily the funniest thing in the world, but what I like about that is those old-fashioned scenes had, it was more of a, they were more concerned with telling a story than they were about doing a punchy comedy routine.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than calling it a sketch, I think it makes more sense as a little scene. It's a little tiny play. And I don't know, I like that. It's a kind of lost style, so I'm interested in it. But yeah, I'm never gonna put that on my top 10 sketches of all time or something.
Right.
Yeah, on side two, then you got Notch Kalatsky, Interplanetary Adventurer. Now this is like a fire sign light in a way.
Right.
And it is similar to their records in that the whole of side two is one story and different from the other side. So it's got a lot of jokey little punny jokes like Fire Sign might do, particularly saying that you have a cereal shaped like Ursula Andress. Like, the only
Yes.
cereal shaped like Ursula Andress, that sounds like a Fire Sign
It
joke.
does. Yes.
But it's gentler. Well, not it has a satire in there too. I mean, there's a great line in there about, like, oh, I hope all the good Christian white boys all go out and send in their box tops or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You're thinking about, yeah, and they're telling you to be careful of all the ethnics in your neighborhood and stuff. There's some real, satire there of it's extremely boomery. This sort
Yes,
of
it is.
boomer thing of satirizing the hidden fascism and all these wonderful, like, children's things that we loved, but had these these sort of suppressive undertones to them. Notch Kalatsky, yeah. So I'm a big fan of, I guess, my aesthetic. So if you listen to the record that Peyton and I made, which is available,
Yes, it is. Uh huh. Uh huh.
they're out there. Look it up. we realize as we're making it that our aesthetic is so 20th century. Everything we think is funny is so 20th century. We don't really do want to do a lot of stuff with computers, and if it is, it's like such an old-fashioned sort of idea of what a computer is.
Uh-huh.
And um, yeah, so I really am into all this baby boomer sort of humor that Firestein made, but even this, growing up with The Simpsons, all the things that they'd make fun of on there are like old uh, old newsreels, and they would always
Right.
make fun of educational films from the 50s and 60s and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and I grew up thinking like, yeah, I want to make fun of that stuff too, but I have no
Yep.
real connection to those things other than
Yeah.
seeing parodies of those things. So for me, it's like seeing a parody of something is nostalgic to me in the same way that they were parodying something they were nostalgic for.
Oh my
Um,
God, you're just
yeah, so I
hurting my
love
brain.
the Notch Kowalski stuff, and yeah, it is just such a baby boomer thing on there of sort of um, loving these adventure things from when you were a kid, but at the same time satirizing the sort of latent, oppressive or fascist elements to them. So those lines in there where he says something like, and I wrote it down, but I know I didn't even write it down right. Says Jimmy the sidekick says something along the lines of, "I hope all the good Christian white teens send in all their rectangular teen box tops." Things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just love that sort of thing. This one's filled with all kinds of jokes, and this is one where they definitely are, when they do something ethnic in here, they are making fun of the idea, I think legitimately, of of ethnic stereotyping, because the bad guy, whose name is, help me out here, do you remember?
I don't. Oh my. But I mean, it was something
His
offensive, if I'm not
subtitle was the
mistaken.
Gook, though. It was something
Yes. Right.
something.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and they say it several times, and obviously they are just calling out Ming the Merciless
Mm-hmm.
from the old Flash Gordon cartoons, which was just a yellow scare. I mean, basically his character description was just Chinese man was
Uh-huh.
essentially what Ming the Merciless was, right? I mean,
Right.
he's just,
So we're
look
we're
how
in
he's got to
space.
be
We've got all these
scary. He's
fantastic
Chinese.
things happening.
Yeah.
But
Like, we can
it's
fly through outer space, but oh no, that dastardly guy with a mustache. It's just the idea that he's like different. That was all they needed, really. They could. I mean, there was no alien thing to him at all, other than he was basically vaguely Asian. So,
yeah,
so they are definitely parodying that here. I think you could definitely make that case.
for sure.
Um, but there's lots of wonderful stuff in there too. I love the Chicago voice, the Captain Clout tells all the good boys and girls to send in their tings and get him a good job inside the city council or whatever. Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
great.
I have to admit, like a minute ago, you literally just verbalized my internal monologue for the last 15 years, which is
Oh
like,
yeah,
am I writing for myself, or am I writing based off of somebody else's life experience that I've absorbed?
oh
Now,
yeah,
I've have to live with the fact that it's probably the latter, because I have the same fucking shit as my sense of humor. I mean, I wrote a whole book about the concept of computers as it kind of was at another time, but
right.
had to take place now, and I'm now trying to write a companion album with it, and realizing everything is based at least loosely on some of those things that you're talking about right now as well. Like it's based on my perception of, again, through a very 20th century lens, and I don't know that there are a lot of people going through this crisis like I'm not saying you're having a crisis, but I'm definitely having a crisis, and you just verbalized it.
Oh God, it's a crisis now. No,
Uh-huh.
the
Yeah.
thing
Yep.
is, so I think there are a lot of people who do that. I don't know necessarily if there are a lot, if everybody is realizing that they're doing it, but I know
Yes.
personally that I don't know what I would think is funny if I hadn't have grown up just watching The Simpsons over and over and over again. That has
Sure.
such a distinct effect in a way that not everything's traceable what affects you, but that one for sure is very easy to tell how it affects what I perceive as funny. And there's so often that I struggle with when I'm writing something and I think it's funny, and then I go, you know what though, isn't this really just a reworked version of this other joke? And it's hard not to do that, especially if you're a big fan or if you're analytical about comedy. So again, I know very few people who are as nerdy about it as I am, and so I really hate it when somebody does performs a piece or something, and somebody's like, it's actually very similar to this other thing you should know about, because usually they're not. They're not really the same thing at
Right.
all. They just remind you of it, or it's sort of talking about the same subject or something,
Right.
but it's not the same joke or whatever. But it's really hard not to see that constantly, especially if you watch Mighty Python or The Simpsons and certain things where they just sort of hit every kind of joke so hard. It's hard to see anything that you do and not go, am I having an original thought here, or is my brain just recapitulating something some form of joke that I thought was funny when I was 12 or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also know there are a lot of people who there's a lot of, speaking of reference humor, which the first track is, there's a lot of reference humor nowadays that nowadays, oh fuck, I'm gonna go kill myself. Hold on, I just said nowadays. I'm a grandpa.
Yeah,
This
we'll
is
pause
happening.
while you kill yourself. You want me to stop the recording, or
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, we want to hear it from both sides.
we just
We'll
pick
get
it
a
up from
nice
there
little
from after you're
stereo
dead?
effect going on. But there's a lot of reference humor that's like, I reference a thing that is beyond my experience, and then if they're challenged on it, and I'm speaking mostly, I think, of improv podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts that have improv interviews, that are characters like Comedy Bang Bang, whatever. And I'm not calling out
Yeah.
any of them specifically or any performers or necessarily picking on these people for doing this, but it's like I made a reference to a thing, and then when they're called out, I was like, I don't really know what that thing is. I just know this is a funny thing to say in this moment. And it becomes a weird, like, that was a solid reference you just did, but you don't know what it means, so what am I supposed to think here?
Yeah, I sort of get that. One thing that drives me nuts in comedy is I do hate it when. Were you getting an echo effect, by the way?
No, believe it or not.
Oh, okay. So I just switched to headphones because I thought that was the case. Well, one thing that bothers me a lot is when I'll see or hear, if people are doing audio thing. Folks that just make the same one reference that they know about a topic. It's all they know, especially when they think they're being edgy or like satirical, and they don't even know what it is exactly that they're insulting. But there's certain groups of people. If it's a Mormon thing or whatever. Okay, well, I'll do something about polygamy or
Right.
whatever, or I'll see a lot of it. I've seen so many people do something about like giving smallpox blankets to Native Americans, and it's like, first of all, like, why are you bringing up this insanely awful big ball of wax into this show if that's not what the show's going to be about? You're just doing it as like a little, ooh, it's kind of edgy that I just dropped this little reference to this thing. But if you were to ask people what they're actually referencing, they're not sure the specifics. They just know that that's sort of a thing. I remember is that happened somewhere. So I don't know. I don't know if that's what you're referring to.
It's very similar.
Just talking about something
Basically, what
different.
we're establishing is that you and I are both old men trapped in slightly younger men's bodies. That's kind of what's happening.
Super old.
I also noticed by the way, thank you for sending me high quality versions of the cover and the back cover, because online they're not very high quality. So what you sent me is I get to see on the back that there's an interview with Dick Orkin, who's the creator of Chicken Man.
Dick Orkin. That's right. Yeah, another classic Chicago comedy DJ guy. Yeah.
So clearly that there's a bit of a pedigree. I'm wondering why he's interviewed on the back, other than to say, "Hey, we know him." I'm trying. I didn't read through the entire interview because I didn't have the opportunity. But
Yeah, you know what though? I love the interview that's on here. Do you have it in front of you right now? Yeah. Can we just act out part of this right now? I think this is because what he's done here is just made a mock interview of the kind of questions that he gets asked all the time, and I think that's great because when it comes to doing audio comedy, this came out 40 years ago, and all his questions were about how it's a totally dead format, and here we are decades later now, and that's still the same questions you get asked. For half a century, people just talking about, I mean, even they reference Stan Freberg here. If you listen to Stan Freberg's radio show, which is one of the last radio shows of that sort of format that was on the air. It was on the 50s. At the time, even people were like, radio's dead. What's he doing in radio? So it's really wild to me. And this is a cute little, well-written little piece of jokes here. Yeah, ask me one of the questions.
Okay, Mr. Orkin, a final question. Who are your favorite radio performers? I need to learn to speak.
That's okay. And I love here, this is the were assumption. All my beloved radio heroes are dead or in jail. It's really well written. I had a lot of admiration for Marconi.
He's dead, isn't he?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Whatever happened to Stan Freberg?
Gee, I think I saw him, last time I saw him was at somebody's funeral.
Marconi's? What was he
Yes.
doing at the time?
The lid was closed. I couldn't tell.
meant...
Well, Stan was crying, and I couldn't really talk to him. See, so I love that right there. The lid was closed, and I couldn't tell. It's a great little routine here, but it's all about, yes, TV must be the next step, or why are you still in a radio? You know, it's really terrific stuff. I love that because this thing needs a little bit of context as to what the heck this is that you hold in your hands. It's got a really terrific weirdo cover that I love, but you got to sell somebody the idea of buying a radio comedy album. I'm really happy with the jacket copy that we have on our record, partially because every day I'm convinced that I no longer know how to write jokes, and so having written that after the album was done was it's really nice to go, okay, we can still do this, especially having kind of fried our brains writing the kind of stuff that's
Right.
on there. So I love that that's on there. I love the photo of Yuri on here. I'm just really glad this thing exists more than anything else.
It's understandable. This is a period of time that I'm not even just in terms of comedy. I'm in general obsessed with DJs of the 60s and 70s, knowing so little about them even. My late father-in-law was a DJ. My uncle-in-law, if that's a thing, is still a DJ and was a DJ in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s also. So I don't know. There's something about this period of time in general, but then also to see all the comedy that came out. I mean, I interviewed a guy named Jamie Alcroft the other day, who I guess his episode will come out before this one, that's what his career was. He had this weird career of doing all these other different things, just plops into radio because he hated the sound of their ads. They made him a DJ, and then eventually that's how he starts his comedy career. It's weird to me that radio was this launching pad for people, or at least for some people, their only place they got to do comedy.
Yeah, radio was showbiz back then, and it's still, I mean, I guess it might still be at like K-Rock or something. I don't know how it is down there. I know that like all these famous people were, involved down there, or at least were decades ago, and now are on TV and stuff. But I mean, back then, the local DJ was a big deal. They were powerful guys. They could actually choose what they wanted to play, and so getting your record in their hands and maybe getting some money to grease that hand as well, could launch you as an act too. So these guys had kind of cult followings. We could follow them from station to station. Even other Chicago guys. If you remember the Disco Demolition, Disco Sucks, famous Comiskey Park incident.
With Steve Dahl?
A guy I know up here actually, just recently did a story on, did a play based on that, and it was fascinating to learn more about Steve Dahl, this sort of just loudmouth, obnoxious guy who could move his own little personal army basically to start a riot at Comiskey Park. It's wild stuff.
That's so funny. Yeah, you can speak to people of and get a rough idea, but until you hear that, oh yeah, as you say, he just mobilized a bunch of people to actually, if not change history, definitely make their mark. I will say that is an enjoyable episode of Drunk History as well, where they tell his story.
I have not seen that.
It's quite good. It's fascinating that I wonder too if people so often, I think too often, compare. I've talked to people in the past about, well, do you miss comedy albums? Which I don't want to be too heavy on the nostalgia, but it's a little unavoidable with this show. Do you miss comedy albums? Well, podcasts are the new comedy albums. I, as you can understand, thoroughly disagree. I think a lot of podcasts, like my own other shows, are a bunch of fuck-arounds, which is fine. I love a good fuck-around.
Yeah.
But there's not.
And to be fair, it is great that people are listening to this right now on vinyl. It's great that you decided to press this episode.
Yeah, I know. It's your episode. I mean, again, it was impossible to get you. Now that I've got you, I need to commit this to some kind of.
You got to committed to vinyl. So in that sense, I guess technically this particular episode of this podcast is a comedy album. But yeah, in general, I agree with you that so the majority of entertainment, and so that's one thing that technology-wise nobody would have predicted. If 20 years ago you told people that the wave of the future was going to be really hot in the 2010s was going to be long-form amateur talk radio, like absolutely no one would believe you, because in every other respect, everything gets slicker and slicker. We're at the point now where, I mean, YouTube became a big thing, and everyone's like, wow, everybody can upload whatever they want. And now YouTube personalities are everything's shot with like red cameras, and they have these little After Effects animated intros and stuff, and things are, very, very slick. And yet podcasting remains just two guys sitting around going like, oh, what'd you do this week? And people listen to it. People love to listen to it. People, they feel like they know those people after a certain amount of time. And the record is just such, by its nature of it's so expensive to press one, they tend to be so much more produced and thought out. And, for instance, when Peyton and I made our record, I'm going to keep referencing in the hopes that somebody out there looks the damn thing up. When we made our record, it's like the purpose of it, people kept saying like, well, why don't you put it out as a digital file? And for us, it's like, well, that would be a digital file, and we're making a record. And it's hard. I don't know why it's hard for people to get what I'm saying here, but the purpose of the thing wasn't to make sounds, and then the delivery method of the sounds was a record. The purpose of the thing was to make a record, which is a piece of plastic. It's a disc. That's the thing we wanted to make, and that is the project. It's like, why don't you make your book into a car? It's just two different. You know what I mean? It's like make your dog a cat. I don't understand. And so you could. We could take the audio that's on it and make it into a digital file, and some people have. Sure. But that's not what the thing is. The project was the record, and specifically the things that we're referencing on it are very specific to it being a record. We're referencing that it's a record. The whole nature of the thing is circular and spirally, and it's all, everything about it has to do with it being a record. So, a great deal of thought goes into that particular thing. And so people, when you think of like a podcast, there's no reason why you couldn't put that amount of thought into a podcast. So you could make a podcast that was like a record, but the problem is that the very nature of it, that people are used to what a podcast is, and the disposable nature of that file make it such that nobody's going to treat it the way, or listen to it the way, or feel the way that they would if it were on a vinyl. It's just a completely different experience of how you put it on and listen to it. You're going to be, doing other things. The thing is that people now don't really hardly even listen to music. I think we have music in our lives more than ever before because it's so convenient to play it anywhere, but people don't listen to it the same way that they used to. People used to invite people over to your house and be like, oh, I got this new record, you should come over and hear it. Like, that seems so weird to me now, but that would happen back in the day because it was a scarce thing. So you go, oh, cool, yeah, let's listen to that record. And when people would put a record on, they'd put it on, and they'd sit there and listen to it. Maybe they'd sometimes do other stuff too, but there's to a different degree, whereas now music is just on while we do something else. No one... I'm also playing Words with Friends, or what, I don't even know. So that's me referencing something I don't know what it is. But I'm playing, Angry Dominoes or whatever it is.
Angry Dominoes.
And whatever it is, and I'm washing the dishes and stuff like that. And so I try to explain to people when we made our record, like, we specifically made something knowing, okay, this is something that you're going to, by purchasing it, I'm a person who feels guilty with things that they own. Anything I own, I feel like, I'm going to carry this around till I die now, right? So for you to purchase something from us that's like, okay, now you own this physical thing that you're going to move from apartment or house to house for the rest of your life until you die, and then some kid's going to have to figure out what to do with it. In order for us to feel okay making that, we wanted to make something that, first of all, had to be in that format, and secondly, would be worthy of listening to multiple times, and hopefully have things that are revealed in it, and actually some things that you're never going to find that are in there because they're like in weird. You'd have to like use special equipment to find. But in any case, they wanted you never get to the bottom of the thing, so that you could justify doing all that. And if you put something out as a digital file, like these podcasts, I love podcasts, but it's inherently going to have a different kind of content because you're never going to be able to listen to it the same way. So having repeated myself like 10 times, I guess I should stop talking now.
Okay, good. No, all you made me think of was I'm now realizing why I like your album so much, and I think it's because anytime you make an album that's about it being an album or about making the album, you have sucked me in immediately. Which is why I would put yours up there with I love The Great White North. I think that's a brilliant album, the Bob and Doug McKenzie album. Lily Tomlin's Modern Scream is it's the most underrated sketch / stand-up album on the planet because it's got both, and it's a solid mix, and it's about the making of the album. It's because I don't know, it's playing with the absurdity also of this piece of material in front of you that is relatively inconvenient unless you're a patient person to play and listen to. And I don't know.
Nobody's patient, though. I have had people, even after I give that big speech I just gave, I'm like, did you listen to it? And they're like, sort of. I was doing the dishes, and eventually I couldn't follow it anymore. And I told you won't be able to follow it unless you pay attention. And there's a lot of very quick-moving stuff going on.
There's a lot going on.
There's just no way.
I know that I have to listen to your album again. And I'm going, next time, though, it's going to be with...
Wait, were you one of the dishes people?
No, but I was literally sitting there listening to it and enjoying it so much that the stuff that I missed is because I was either trying to figure it out. Like there's plenty that went over my head, just like Fire Sign style. There's plenty that went over my head.
Oh yeah, I don't know what I mean. And that's one thing that I'm hoping with your continuing series on the Fire Sign, which I hope everyone's listening to. I hope that you can just ask what the hell's going on in some of those places so I could figure it out for myself. I really want you to. I mean, I don't know if I got all the way through the last one you did with Proctor, but are you anything you want to? The first version of that with the radio jail and all the Japanese television stuff. Yeah, just an explanation of what the hell that is. It would be wonderful because I love them so much, but there's huge sections where it's completely incoherent to me, and I'm not a smart man. I need someone to walk me through it.
Yeah, and at least you're willing to admit that that stuff goes above your head. That's what I try to do with my own,
Yeah, but it can't all be my fault.
No,
too,
it can't.
Is the thing. Like, there's a certain point where and this happens with a lot of great artists, where you're going like, wow, they're a genius, and I just don't get it because they're a genius. And then a certain point where you're like, but also drugs.
100%.
I mean,
that's what's happening. I mean, when we listened to Bozos, which I think was the last one we did, that's the first one that started to make sense to me. I think it's because it's the first one that started to make sense, and maybe it was less drugs, maybe it was this, maybe it was that. Maybe I'm a little dumb, which is fine. Fully willing to admit that. But yeah, I mean, that's when I finally started to question the whole process because I'm like, oh, I'm starting to understand these now. Am I understanding Fire Sign better?
That's so funny because I've heard of that the opposite way a lot, where people are like, Bozos is where it started to just get too weird, where I couldn't
maybe it's the computer shit. Maybe it's because I'm that kind of a nerd that it was just like, that's what made me pay better attention. So, don't know.
There's parts of that, so we're way off topic, but I don't care. There's parts of that record that I think are the most brilliant stuff like ever. The all the history of man sort of section stuff, but there's other parts where I'm not sure that it's even supposed to be funny. There's nothing like laugh out loud funny going on for minutes at a time, but it's just kind of weird, interesting stuff. But there's even on Dwarf, there's stuff where I get the general idea of what's going on, but it doesn't necessarily make any sense to me. And the fact that there's parts where it's like, oh, this doesn't quite add up. Like, I'm not sure where we are at this particular moment and if it's still this thing or, there's little moments of confusion that add up so much to how brilliant something can be. I remember the first time I ever saw an improv show, like professional improv show, like a Harold, a long form show. like most audience members, was very confused at certain points.
Hmm.
But I kind of liked it. I liked that I was confused. It made it seem like sort of mystical or magical to me, that I didn't fully understand everything. And I think some great art should have an element of me not being sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if I watched a David Lynch thing and somebody explains to you what every single thing in it means, it's not
Right.
fun at all. There's no mysticism to that.
That also makes me think very much of, and they're maybe they're a little bit on the simpler level, but the Coen brothers, if they're ever asked to do commentary, they don't do it. But if you've ever seen, have you ever seen Blood Simple and then put the commentary on? Do
No.
it, because the commentary is not real. The gentleman is not real. Everything he's saying is fake.
Oh right, he's the guy that they had do the intro. It's a character that they had do the intro for the DVD.
I think
release,
so.
right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I've
It's
heard
brilliant,
about that.
and that's basically sketch comedy. I mean, it's one long sketch, but that's 100. I mean, they literally, they, at one point, like there's a shot where Francis McDormand is in a car, and he's just saying, "Well, I know that they shot the film. Here they had the car suspended upside down and had the camera upside down as well because they needed to do this just complete bullshit, because they're very much, you don't need to know what's going on, just enjoy it." Which is hard. Not a lot of artists will
yeah.
do that, though. That's, some people like, please keep examining my work, make me feel important. But I respect when people do the opposite.
Well, it's really it makes it feel less important once people know everything.
For sure.
That's in it. The example I like to think of is that movie Donnie Darko. I remember when that came out, and it didn't make any fucking sense. And people were like, well, this is the work of a true genius. And then the guy explains it, and it's like, oh, you're just bad at telling a story. This was just incoherent because you messed up. And, he did like a director's cut where it made a lot more sense, and it's not nearly as good. And so all the stuff that people were reading into all these things was just, oh, it was just edited poorly or whatever. Yeah, don't do that. If you've got an amount of mystery going on to your art, then do not reveal it. The opposite, though, to me is like, I'm a huge Stuart Lee fan. Are you a fan of Stuart Lee?
Yeah.
Stand up? Yeah. And he to me is very similar to Penn and Teller in that they'll sort of walk you through how the trick works and at the same time still be amazing.
Right.
And that's extremely difficult to do, and you have to really twist your head around to be able to do that. You have to be extremely smart. But for anybody else, if there's an element of mystery to what you're doing, just let the mystery be there.
For sure.
Except for Phil Proctor, because those guys, there's not many of them left, and we need to just find out what the hell was going on with that record. Not insane or anything.
I don't know that my show is doing that at all, especially since I, as many people have noted, have a little bit of trouble reining Phil in. But I've also spoken to his friends, and it's impossible to rein Phil in. The man's a dynamo. He just...
It's amazing. He remembers everything, and he's, you're like, oh, wow, finally we're going to get the story of the Firesign Theater. And it's like, oh, I want to know about the second, because to me, my favorite thing is still the record and the most influential to me, too, is How Can You Be at Two Places at Once If You're Not Anywhere at All. Huge to me, and that's why, because of that record, we decided to make a record. And I'm like, oh, wow, I got to find out more about that. So you could fast forward like 2 hours, and he's still talking about the radio, before the Radio Free Oz or whatever. So it's like, you're getting the full story here. So I appreciate that he keeps dropping in and telling more.
You think you're a good interviewer, and then you get somebody who's got that many stories, and you're like, oh, you're so involved, and you're like, oh, fuck, we lost the train like an hour ago. But at least it's a fun ride. That's the thing about interviewing Proctor. I do hope we'll have David on at some point as well. I do hope that happens.
Yeah, he seems like he's much. He seems like the harder get. Like he's not really running around in the public eye much. Yeah. He's out there. He likes to write his books and. Yeah.
That's very much the
Is that the thing? Is he a bit? Have you talked to him
have.
at all?
Yes, super nice guy. I met him at when they did the 50th anniversary show here in LA, which was tinier than I would have liked. It was a lot of fun, and It was at the Steve Allen Theater before they tore the Steve Allen Theater down. It was right before they did that. And yeah, David's just a sweet guy. He wants to do the show, so one day it will happen. He just
That's
doesn't
great.
live here, and it's almost impossible to get him here. And I don't know if Skype's a possibility. We'll have to do a little digging.
You should try that. They seem like very technologically friendly
I will.
guys. They were sort of anytime a new format comes out, seems like they were behind it. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
they're like, we did picture discs, and it's like, well, no one has any way to play back a lot of the things
First
that they did. But
they did
I
the
did,
first
yeah, go ahead.
CDIs, which is like, again, if you ask Taylor can go on and on and on about it as well, maybe a little more succinctly. But yeah, what's so funny is I was helping Taylor digitize all of Peter Bergman's VHS tapes before they were
Oh,
being
wow.
sent off to the Library of Congress, because the Library of Congress just bought their archive. And in looking in, they did so many like tech demo videos. Peter and Proctor both together did a bunch of videos together that were like for Apple or for this or for that, like very early on. And yeah, they were 100% ahead of the curve. And obviously, Steve Jobs was a big Firesign fan, so that didn't hurt things either. So it's pretty fascinating. And I should bring this up now, just in case I forget, because I haven't mentioned it to anybody, and this will also keep me on a deadline. But I got a lot of video of Taylor doing the archiving, and then video of them taking the archive off to the Library of Congress. So I'm putting that together like a little mini documentary that people will be able to watch soon. So maybe.
Oh, that'll be amazing because and I know that Taylor had mentioned that someone was actually kind of making the definitive Firesign documentary right now. I think something like that,
He is.
which is great because there really is a huge lack of that. They're so amazing, and there's no definitive sort of thing that you can get a grasp on what they do, because that's the hardest thing. I think they have the biggest barrier to entry of any group
Yeah.
ever. I should have just picked a Firesign record so we could talk about that on the air. But they had the biggest barrier to entry. I had heard of them by the time I was in college, but I didn't listen to them for years and years because I remember occasionally I like looked them up and would just hear a clip and it's just incoherent unless you get your bearings. And it's like, where do you begin with them? And if you talk to try to talk to a fan and ask them, their fans are their brains are all scrambled from listening to the Firesign for so many years, and probably the drugs too. But they're I saw them at the Library of Congress. Actually, I saw Osman and Proctor do their performance there. I guess a year ago, and I went down to Washington to see this because I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna get this chance
For sure.
again. So, and it was wonderful, and they had obviously new stuff in there too. It was really cool they did it, but I was the only person there under 50 something, and people were sort of like, whoa, what are you doing here, man? And I tried talking to them about this, and I was like, I talked to one of the audience is full of, again, they're middle-aged and older men. They're all men. I talked to one of the 4 women that was there, and I'm like, wow, it's so cool to meet a woman that listens to Firesign. It just seems like there's such a very specific kind of audience for this. And she was like, oh, I'm just here for my husband, And it's not to say they wouldn't like. I just think it's just so hard to introduce somebody to the group, and I think a documentary would really that puts them in the right place in history. It finally puts them in their place. would let.
Yeah, and I don't know that the name has been released to the person who's doing it, so I won't do it here, but I will say the one other documentary of his I've seen is one of my favorite documentaries of all time. So it's going to be good. I will say he's used this podcast for research, so bonus there. And yeah, right.
Excellent.
So that's kind of it's going to be good. It promises to be a bunch of fun. And I actually did speak to somebody at the Library of Congress recently who's like, yeah, I saw all those boxes come in and I don't know what we're doing with them. So they have them. So it's official. It was not, somebody did not scam the Firesign Theater out of boxes and boxes of tapes. The Library of Congress actually has it. So that's nice to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put it past some super fan to do that. They're
Right.
very diligent people. The thing that I love about them is that so they're fans, and again, even trying to find their fan stuff is all very esoteric and weird and hard to read, because people will speak in sort of half them speaking, half them just referencing things from the Firesign. These weird quotes, like the way I describe when people say like, "What's the Firesign like?" I'm like, "Well, this is where your dad got it from," all those weird things he says. But like, you'll see. Oh yeah, you'll see how obsessive people are. It's like they're looking for the Zodiac killer. These folks that are like, searching these references. And I know Taylor said on one of your previous podcasts that somebody found the book that they must have been referencing when they were doing a
Yeah,
certain
it's
bit or whatever. And I remember looking at stuff where they're like, well, Mudhead is not just a reference to Jughead or to Andy Hardy's friends. It's an amalgamation of those things, but also Mudhead references the Indian god, Hopi Indian god of this or that. And it's one of those things where when people talk about Lost or some television show and they have some crazy fan theory, and I usually look at that stuff and they're like, well, the doorknob was colored this color, which in ancient Hindu texts and it's like all these disparate things, and I'm going, yeah, that's all cool, except for when in human history has anybody ever made anything that was on that level of, puzzles hidden within it? And then with Fire Sign, it's the one thing where I go, when somebody explains all this Hopi Indian stuff, I'm like, yeah, that's likely. That was probably in the mix.
yeah.
Because you got these 4 or 5 crazy guys that are just reading voraciously. They're riffing constantly on everything, and anything they ever could think of is in the mix there. And then also, again, mushrooms or whatever. So it's just, it is fair game that, yeah, it's a reference to some Indian thing that I was researching, and then also a movie from 1936 that was on TV late at night.
Yeah.
It's very likely.
Yeah, that's the insane thing, and that's why I have. It is a situation where when I either talk to anybody about it, it's very much a lay back and let them talk at you, and not, I'm not meaning that in an offensive way. It's like I'm not going to understand all this, so I'm willing to let you tell me everything you know. I just don't expect any back and forth, because that's not going to happen. I don't get it. And that's fine. I'm fine with letting that happen. What's funny though is, like, I now am caught up with Proctor. I'm caught up on the Fire Sign albums I had heard beforehand. I am now listening to these fresh, and I've only heard,
like, recently. Like, what are you listening to?
Well, whatever the next one is, I haven't heard. That's all I know, and I have them all. I have them all thanks to either buying them myself or being gifted them by very kind people. But yeah, and at this point, I figure, well, if we're gonna do the history, I might as well listen to them fresh as though they just came out, and let's see what the hell happens.
Oh yeah, well, I guess the topic is now Fire Sign. Well, I'll just go ahead and say this: that they there is this weird idea out there too that when I first started listening to them, that they made the first 3 or 4 albums, and then after Bozos or whatever, they just sort of dropped off. And that's not really the case at all. They had that weird album that nobody seems to like, Not Insane. But then after that, they had several great albums, and they continued to. They never really stopped. Even when they broke up, they never stopped. And they've all got these solo albums, but the solo albums are all the same kind of thing, and they involve the same people. And even through, and listening to like Boom Dot Bust, and I think that's great. Like, there's stuff up through the 2000s that's still, I think, fantastic. And Giant Rat of Sumatra in the 70s, and even Everything You Know Is Wrong is like amazing. The first side of that actually, you know what? There's one thing in that where I have no idea what the hell it is, but the rest of it is amazing. So I don't really know where that idea comes from, but they were putting out terrific stuff, and it's such a weird discography, not just from the album standpoint, but they would do those specials. They did so many odds and ends and video project stuff for like their Cinemax or Showtime or something, and these weird little movies that who knows how they got financed or where they were ever shown that you can find, and then all those weird cut up movies they did. I mean, they have such a huge output of stuff and so little things that I think most casual people know as canon, that there's just, if you're into them, there seems to be a never-ending treasure trove of obscurities to be found.
I love that when we talk about people's influences on the show, it's normally, oh, I discovered this when I was 14 and I haven't been able to stop thinking about it because that is typical. But you discovered
Yeah.
fire signs so late, but you know their shit up and down. And I love that. That doesn't often happen, that you have an influence later in life, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I can't remember anything past 18 or there's so many movies now. I remember when I was a little kid, and you'd ask your parents about something, and you'd be like, "Oh, I've seen that movie," and you'd ask them about something, and they're like, "Oh, I don't really remember that specific part." And you go, "How do you not remember every TV show and movie you've ever seen? That's crazy." And now anything I've seen after I got out of high school, I have no idea what it was. There's like books that I know I've read, and I couldn't tell you one thing about them. But yeah, some of that stuff it sticks with me, and my brain is falling apart. But it'll trigger something, and it'll stick some sort of memory. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I could talk all day in only Simpsons quotes from like the first 10 years
Of course.
or whatever, and that stuff does stick in there. But yeah, fire sign's one of those things that I got really into, close to my deathbed, as it were. And I still like them.
Let's go, because the next time you do the show, there's a good chance we're going to be talking about fire sign anyway. So we will, because the thing is, I could talk about this all day, but let's go back to Yuri for at least a moment.
Yes, please. He deserves it, because the thing is that this is an unsung hero of radio here.
It's such a. I wish we could describe. Do you want to describe the cover for people, because you did send it to me for a reason?
Yeah, well, yeah. And maybe you'll put this on
Yes.
the liner, the site or whatever. But so this is, and I love this as Inglorious Mono. Okay, so we have this appears to be an ink, I guess, sketch of a woman in a fancy gown and pearls and flowers on her. She is quite a grotesque looking sort of caricature of a very large woman dressed for a night out. She has wearing huge headphones hooked up to a portable record player, and all over her dress are these little Egyptian guys that say tut, and someone blowing on some sort of horn that say toot. And this appears to be Lady Featherbottom, is that her name? The narrator of Great Moments in Literature.
Oh yes, right.
From the record. Who is, this wonderful voice, sort of person like this, talking about the erotic literature of Bordello on Pooh Corner, children's erotic
stupid.
literature. Yeah, it's one of those things, and I love that sort of bit too, where there's lots of little jokes that are just interesting little things that go by really fast, and they're not going to pause and tell you that they did a joke. I like that a lot. I like density of jokes. So I like there's some other things in there. She says, I feel like I wrote them down here. What's this? Yeah, erotic children's fiction. Oh, I don't remember. But this is terrible for a podcast. Everyone should stop listening right now. But I didn't write it all down. But there's wonderful turns of phrases in there. I'll give you some from the side too.
Sure.
There's some things where they do the same thing. I'm about to, like, I went the rectangulatine formula so I can fortify my troops. Just wonderful little things of like slipping in the advertising into the show itself, or just too much of everything. Just having that be a slogan for a business. Too much of everything. Those sort of things. Yeah, it's wonderful.
I'm going to re-listen to it, I think, which is rare. I rarely will re-listen to just about anything because I feel like I fill too much of my days with comedy albums. But it feels like it deserves at least a single re-listen. Because again, it's pretty dense. I love, by the way, rectangulatine. That is a joke I would have written when I was 14, but still, like, it's still, in case people don't know, this still exists, but there's a drink called Ovaltine that used to sponsor a lot of things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Oval, rectangle, there's a simple joke. That's a joke I would have written when I was 14, but because of that, I still kind of I still kind of dig it.
Yeah, I love those kind of jokes. The thing is that it again, is it like ha ha hilarious as rectangulitine?
No.
No, but just putting rectangulitine in there is such a weird little word to get to say. It's a fun thing
Mm-hmm.
to say, and if you just breeze past it in a barrage of 100 little
Mm-hmm.
tiny jokes, I
Yeah,
love
and
it.
it took me a minute,
Um,
honestly. It took them saying it a couple times for me to realize, oh, they're doing a thing here, which is fun. Good.
yeah, if you stop and if you have a setup and the punchline is rectangulitine, that's the worst joke in
Right.
the world. But in a flurry of snowflakes coming
Mm-hmm.
down, I love that, and that's the thing that I love about that kind of style of humor that people were doing back then, and I still like to do, and we do on our record and stuff. But it's people now classify it as dad jokes, and the thing is, like, yeah, these are the guys. That's what your dad was listening to in the '70s. He
Mm-hmm.
loved it, and I love it. And I have this big problem now where I always considered my strong suit to be that I had good taste in things. And now, honestly, I love bad jokes as much as good jokes. And I'm not sure that I can tell the difference
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
anymore. Um, so I'm just shamefully writing that kind of thing. And I don't think there's an audience that appreciates it
Mm-hmm.
anymore. But I think it's good, and I can always pass it off as it's supposed to be
Sure.
ironic.
Yeah.
So that's what I'll do. Is if people don't like the joke, it's definitely like hokey on purpose. And if you do like the joke, then yeah, that was made for you in complete sincerity.
You know what? You've come up with these wonderful internal justifications I've never been able to do for myself. I'm going to steal these all from you, because
Oh
I
yeah,
deal with
so
this
you
stuff all the
should.
time. You know, I wrote a whole book that is that. Like I said, I wrote a whole book that is like either it references to outdated technology because I find that funny, or shitty puns that are veiled in, hey, somebody else in the universe of the book made the pun. It wasn't me. You know.
Right. Oh, that's a good way to
Mm-hmm.
do it too. Is to give yourself a character that says
Yeah.
those things. Yeah, we like to, and in our record we have this like Ed Wynn voice we'll use for
Mm-hmm.
things. Just talking like this all day, and we both do it because we both like to do it, and we both think we're better than the other guy at doing the voice. So, but yeah, it's a good way to do it too. I think you can do any kind of cheesy bad humor. You just have to like wear cool jeans, and people will assume that you're being ironic.
Boy, I got it. There's another thing. I mean, doing an Ed Wynn voice, I is also that's my shit. Like nobody knows. People know that that's a voice. That's a voice some people do. There are so many people who have no idea who Ed Wynn is. Actually, at some point, I should maybe send you the Ed Wynn comedy album I have, and we'll have to listen to it. I
Oh, I'd
think
love
it's from his
that.
radio show. Uh,
Absolutely love Edwin.
he's a
Yeah,
delight.
mustard. He's just nobody. Just such a funny face, such a funny, great reactions, I'm a huge fan of um, just very broad comedy
Mm-hmm.
reactions to things, and I think everybody is, but everybody's too cool to admit it. So again, everything has to be done like, oh, we're doing this knowingly, and I think they were always doing it that
Yeah.
way. I don't think anyone ever was trying to pass that off as some sort of
Right.
high art, naturalism or something. Um, but I love that's one of the things I love about like old Hope and Crosby comedies and stuff. They would do like hokey jokes with always this sort of like winking thing of like, oh yeah, we know this joke is hokey to us even now, but like, oh yeah, we're
Yeah.
going for it. We love it.
Yeah, there is that weird disconnect where you do think your generation is, 10 times smarter than two generations before you. So then you figure you've discovered the truth of the matter. And when you're being ironic, it's the first time anybody's been ironic in this manner. Uh,
Right, yeah, we all think we
uh-huh.
invented something. And there's something on the side two of the Chicago language tape there, in the Noskalatsky, I can't even say it right. Sorry, Nochkalatsky um, section, where toward the beginning he's talking to Jimmy, his sidekick, and he's saying like all the little switches that need to be switched in their airplane. And he's saying, actuate the positive, accentuate the negative. Like, don't mess with Mister In Between, And it's the cheesiest
Mm-hmm.
joke in the world. But again, my hat's kind of off that they
Mm-hmm.
go for it. I kind of love that they just unapologetically do this dumbass setup for a joke. Also, the setup generally is pretty clever. That really, if you're not paying attention, really does sound like just the techno babble that usually just goes straight through you that you don't pay attention to, and it'll
For
assume that's the
sure.
show.
For sure.
but I don't mess with Mr. In Between. But when I hear a really dumb joke like that, in a lot of ways, that's a lot of people that I know's favorite kind of joke, whether they admit it or not. It's one that when they hear it, they go, "Damn it!" Because they're mad at themselves for
Yes,
laughing a little
yes.
bit, and they hate that they think it's kind of funny, and they like, "Fuck you for like even setting that up."
Uh-huh.
And I think of always that part in the movie Patton when there's some German planes fly overhead and he runs after them with his pistol, just shooting at the planes. And he's like, "If I could find those pilots, I'd give them a medal." And it's just, it's just sort of like, "You magnificent bastards! I hate you, but by God, I have to give you credit."
That's when I discovered I loved Conan, when I realized all of his jokes were making me do that, and they still do.
Oh
Conan,
yeah, I mean,
anything,
the absolute dumbest shit in the world.
100%, and he knows it. But there's intent behind it. He's always been like, I remember reading his philosophy at one point. It was like, if you come and you write on my show, the joke can never be there is no joke. There has to be a joke. He's like, you can do irony as much as you want, but if your joke is there is no joke, I don't give a shit. That's not funny to me, and I respect that. Which means then that leaves the door open for the dumbest shit on the planet. But if you get it, and if it somehow resonates with you, that's always my reaction. It's like, you motherfucker. I think I usually will blurt out asshole, like Jimmy Pardo style. Like, that's one thing where I related to Jimmy Pardo's. Like, I will say asshole out loud in just plain voice, and that's usually the highest compliment for a joke, because you've just been an asshole and made me find that very funny.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So they're not afraid to be silly on this record. I love that. I live in Brooklyn, and a lot of the shows I see are just people are so they want to be
Sure.
cool so bad, and that's important to them. And to me, like, being cool is the opposite of being funny. I mean, there's some people who seem to have a certain kind of coolness they can pull off, but it's different than what you usually see. When I think of coolness, I think of somebody who isn't affected by things, and I like really silly, dumb stuff. And if you go for the silly, dumb thing hard enough, people will eventually sometimes think that is cool. You're Steve Martin or a Conan O'Brien or something like that. People think those guys are cool. They're the dorkiest, guys in the world. Where doing the silliest things, and I really, I appreciate that, and I appreciate that nobody on this record here is trying to be cool at all, even though they are radio DJs.
That's perfect. No, that's good. I agree. I agree. That's it. I got nothing to add to that. I was trying to build, and I've got nothing to add to that. You succinctly said it. I was going to ask you, hey, why don't I was going to ask you the typical question, why would you recommend it? You just did it, so I'm not going to ask you because you just said why to listen to this album, and that's a good enough argument.
Yeah, and it's a bit of obscurity that needs to be dusted off and given a listen to. There's a lot of good work on here that deserves to be heard, and I hope that you're able to put a couple of little clips into the show because.
If I can, I will. I have not done that in a long time on this show, but if I can, I absolutely will.
All right. There's something to think about. I don't think that the good people at the Chicago National Radio Theater of Chicago are going to be coming after
No, you're right. It's never been a matter of that. It's been a matter of time. Yes, I will certainly take that under advisement because people rarely say, could you please put a clip in? So I will try and actually do that here.
Well, it's just hard to find it. I thought even when you find something obscure, you go, wow, I can't believe I found this. And you look it up, the whole damn thing is on YouTube. This one I thought, well, for sure, I'm sure it is. But really just the title cut is. I didn't find anything else.
Same here. I was curious to see if I could find it elsewhere, but I didn't see it in there. So that's a good point. It is worth putting it in for that sake of it. I mean, that's part of, for me anyway, digging into old, especially local comedy albums. There's a little bit of archaeology to it. There's a little bit of, am I going to enjoy this, or is this going to be the typical? Most of the comedy albums I find that are local comedians are crap, which is fine. I like that experience of finding this crap to see if there's any gems in there, or if there's something promising about what they were doing, who the hell this person was. Did they turn out that they ended up writing a ton of TV or, working on something I loved just under a pseudonym. This kind of stuff happens. Like that. I did this one about this trucker comedy album, which was fine and funny, but then it turns out he wrote a bunch of Magnum PIs. It's a very weird thing,
Yeah. Well, when we made our album, it's only released on vinyl, so it has very
Mm-hmm.
few copies out there. So we've made something that is an artifact
Uh-huh.
right from the beginning. And we've known from the beginning that our only chance of anybody ever giving a shit about this thing is it's like, well, if we have various people that do little guest voices for us on there, and if one day one of those people
Mm-hmm.
gets famous, or if maybe Peyton finally goes on that murder spree he's always talking about, and he becomes infamous or whatever, or something like that happens, then uh, someday in some used record bin somewhere, some kid might find the thing and find some name on there and go, "Oh, wow, that's the guy. That's the guy that they brought back the death penalty for, or whatever," and get it, and it'll be something special that she's able to find. So I love that aspect of it, and there's so little of that left now that everything's instantly available everywhere. Which, again, not something people would be predicted to
Sure.
be nostalgic for. Of like, remember when you couldn't find things?
Is there's something comforting in accepting your own potential obscurity, right? Because I find myself doing that on the daily.
Well, I try to, wake up every day and do a little meditation where I just embrace the idea of being dead. Sure, yeah, why not? Why not? No, I don't. I don't necessarily know that I take comfort in that. It's a
Mm-hmm.
slow
Mm-hmm.
realization. That because everybody starts doing comedy with the same idea that
Mm-hmm.
you're the genius. You're the one who's going to be huge one day, and then eventually the people that you remember being, fresh off the boat day one or whatever are now famous or whatever, and you're going, oh, no, 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 no. Everyone
Mm-hmm.
else was
Mm-hmm.
right. All that discouragement was correct. I should have been following that. But you decide to make those things. So for me, it's like what I love about this record too is that it feels very official. This doesn't feel like a vanity project. Um, you did mention that it wasn't put out by a proper
Right.
record label, but I hadn't really thought about that
Mm-hmm.
until you mentioned it. I had to look at it, but uh, it's very official, and by having it on vinyl, it does seem like something that needs to be kept and preserved. And I think of our own record the same way, of being like, this isn't some little practice thing I put out. This is like official. I'd put our record up against anybody else's thing and say, this is canon. This is officially, this is not like when a band puts out a little demo tape or whatever, and eventually we hope nobody hears it because we want to make our real first album when we're on a proper label. It's like, this is it. This is what I do with my life. This is not me trying to get to the point where I can make something. This is who I am and what I do now. And this record's the same thing. I love the cover of it. I love the sort of stance they take with the copy on the back saying that we're not on our way to doing radio or something, but we really are invested in radio theater. And the sort of statement that it makes, and that they just put the damn thing out there on their own. I love it.
Yeah. No, I respect the shit out of it, and that's I don't care that it wasn't on a label. I just found I always find that stuff
No,
interesting. You
you
know
were
what I mean?
calling them out for not being on Little David or whatever would be
I
proper for you, or Celery Sound, or one of the big,
Yeah, sure, one of the
names.
big three.
One of the big names, yeah.
I love. Uh-huh. I love so much the Vanity Press. I actually, it's funny. There's a book called Enjoy the Experience, which was, I think it was edited or co-written by Greg Turkington, and it's all Vanity Presses. And there are two in there, at least two that are comedy albums, and I've picked them up since. They're insane, but there's actually I should actually send them to you.
I would love that.
I'd be curious to see what you think. They're
Absolutely.
insane. They do
Please.
not. They don't. I'm just going to send them to you, and then I without any caveats. I won't say anything about them yet because I'm
Oh,
doing an
please, yeah.
episode about them soon, and I'd rather you hear the albums first. But I don't know. Vanity Press is one of those things that almost sounds insulting, but it's like it's actually it's something somebody poured their not their just their money, but their damn heart into. Few people did vanity presses because they were doing something that was just a fucking lark. They weren't just jerking off. Like most of the time,
Yeah.
these are things that are like, no, I wanted to put some time into this, and I wanted people to hear my stuff. Nobody big wants to hear it, so fuck it. I'm going to do it myself. You know, even if if it's a matter of drop lifting it at Amoeba Records, which is probably going to happen with my next record.
Really? Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is you reach a point where you're going. I'm not gonna wait for somebody else to tell me that I can do this thing. We're just gonna do it. 'Cause I don't even know what the purpose of, if this thing had. I mean, yeah, like this record here, totally worthwhile artistic endeavor, totally worthwhile listen. Would it make sense being distributed nationally? Like, absolutely not, because you wouldn't be able to sell it. People don't necessarily know who Yuri. David, you can never say the last name. Yuri Razovsky is. I mean, he eventually moved to L.A. They probably know him out there eventually, but he's not known nationally. The National Chicago Radio Theater not known nationally, and so it's just a numbers sales standpoint that. It's but sometimes we see that as a lack of quality or something.
Right.
Maybe with books it is. No, it's not. Everybody should. I think I don't know. Just the print on demand business is wonderful for horrible projects and wonderful for your weird little obscure thing you want to do. I think it's great. And you're somebody who, you've written books, you've made movies, you've put out records, you've done all these things, and you're clearly not somebody who is waiting for somebody to come to you and beg you to make something. You're out there just creating, and having all this output. And, so better than anybody. It's just so freeing to go, I'm going to make this stuff, and to have it out there in a physical medium, you want, after you work that hard, to be able to hold on to something and go, I made this.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, that's the big. I'm staring at a frame. I have been this whole time, just being able to reference it. I've got this frame that's got my two.
I've been staring at a mirror this whole time.
Oh, have
that's
you?
Me. Yeah.
I'm very frustrated that you're not here in person. So you need to come out to LA, or I guess I have to come out to New York at some point. We'll do this in person.
I'm not there with you. That's a problem that most people in the world have, But I can only be in one place at one time. But yeah, I'd love to. Visit out there. I understand that the show usually pays airfare, so anytime I'm free in January or something, we could.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, let me give you my credit card number. We'll go from there. We'll figure it out.
Just do it right now over the air and.
Okay. It's a Visa. Let's start there. The expiration. I'll start with the expiration date.
That's usually the way I do it. Yeah, you want to go in reverse order.
It's July 2021.
That's a good expiration.
The number on the back is 803, and wait, hold up. This actually, you know what? This is weird. This the name on it is John Q. Public. This is one of those ones you get in the mailer. I forgot. I don't know what.
It's one of those mailers. Has that mailer been sitting around since the 40s? Or something?
Yep. It absolutely.
Yeah,
has,
they were always putting John Q. Public, or sometimes the MasterCards would come. They'd just say Mac on them.
I don't know why it's got the CRV number or whatever it is on the back. I'm not sure why there's a number on them. It's very strange for one of those. It's like they went to all this work to make it look real and convince you it was real, but then they put the name John Q. Public on it. I don't get it. So with that stupid joke, let's go into what do you have to promote? Where can people find you? Where can people find your record?
We worked on that little comedy routine we just did for 8 months. That's why the episode took so long to. Where can people find me and do stuff? I don't know. I'm on Twitter rarely. JM Jeffries 2 on there because I wanted to make it easy for people to find.
Of course.
Right now, so I'm writing a few shows. I'm directing a couple things in Brooklyn. Peyton and I are writing it. We finally had a breakthrough on this today, as of this morning. So we're working on a show to do live at some fringe festivals and things, which is interesting because we don't do live. This record wasn't something that we put together because our record wasn't something we put together because we had some act and people just were dying for a record of it. It was we did it. We got together to do the record. We had worked together in various other things, but we'd never been like a duo. So that'll be interesting to see what that dynamic is like in real life. But I've also, so in the past, I did another radio project, which I've put out as an album and as a podcast. It's a detective serial called Troubles Up in Alphabet Town.
Yes.
And that came out slowly many years ago, but I actually really love most of it. So I've been writing a follow-up, and I remember now why I haven't done that before, because it is a painful amount of work for me to do to write a mystery. So I'm working on that right now as well in the writing stage. So I'm on legal pad number 4 of writing that show, so look for that eventually.
You longhand writing motherfucker. Holy shit. That's
Oh yeah, I got to do it. Too many
all right.
distractions on a computer, and then you're just another psycho at the Starbucks working on his screenplay or whatever.
That's
no,
true.
man. That's not me.
True.
That's just not my style. Me, the Alphabet Down scripts traditionally are written in a notebook sitting in a McDonald's.
All right. I respect that. I respect that. Most of my stuff's been written in a Panera for no reason. Because that's
it's a different vibe in the McDonald's. You meet some interesting
for sure. For sure. The coffee's cheaper there also.
Here's the thing about a McDonald's.
Yes.
They got Wi-Fi if you need it. You can get a cup of coffee there for $1. Mm-hmm. They're not going to kick you out. They're also, you can sit there as long as you want, but also, they're not going to kick out other people who are probably going to be, trying to molest you at some point or do something horrible to you while you're in there. So that's the downside. But it's cheap, it's convenient, and you can actually get a seat there, as opposed to like a coffee shop where people literally are just all day like talking about their EDM music that they're going to be making or whatever, and they're really just looking at Facebook all day. So I highly recommend finding a thing that matches your lifestyle and going there. So our record took years to come out because we just kept not finishing it. The standard problem that I run into is that I'm going to finish something, and then what I do is I accidentally don't finish it. And so we were doing sketch shows and TV things, and we were doing musical and stuff, and we never could finish this damn record. So by the time it came out, I was already in New York. And so Jason was somebody that Peyton dealt with. So he had done some posters and things for local comedy shows, and that's how he got to know him. But we tried looking at different options that we can do and stuff. Our big thing was we wanted to... I am a huge fan of just drawn covers for comedy albums. What I love about it is that you can make all this weird stuff kind of come to life there. I love the cover of the Chicago Language tape and a lot of other things that have this great hand-drawn art. So we wanted him to just incorporate as many characters from the piece as possible and to have this weird sort of wraparound thing, because our record was really influenced by Doug Hofstadter's sort of writings and strange loops and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So we have this thing where it's all these characters are in a line, but the line wraps around the back of the record. But the back of the record is also the back of the fence they're standing in front of, so it's actually a line on the opposite side of the front of the record, but it's also a circle at the same time. And also the circle... Oh, sorry, it's not... Yeah, so it's a continuation of the line, it's the opposite side of the line, and it's a circle at the same time. Mm-hmm. So we needed somebody who would listen to that weird kind of explanation and then be able to draw it, and he did such a great job, so we're really happy with that.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I will thoroughly recommend the album, obviously. I mean, otherwise, why would I have said, hey, why don't you hop on my weird little almost
and we appreciate
label?
So much all the mentions that you gave it on episodes of this show. It's a really great thing.
I continue to do so because I want people to listen to it. And I will tell you, I have never recorded it digitally because I'm not going to listen to it that way. And also there's a real solid reason not to. There's a physical reason not to put it because it doesn't work digitally. That it would not work if you ripped it. It doesn't work. I don't want to give it away, but there's a physical reason to not put this on a digital thing that doesn't play. It wouldn't play. I don't know. It's good. It's worth listening to. A gift you didn't ask for from friends you never had. You can get it at celerysoundrecords.com. Yeah, please do. Absolutely. Jared, thank you so much for doing the show. Number one.
Oh, thank you so much for finally having me on.
Of course, you will come back.
Excited.
This will happen.
I'd love that. There's plenty more to talk about. I've got a bunch of these records. So.
Yeah, and if you've got more obscure shit, then I'm happy to listen to whatever you've got because I enjoyed this experience. It was fun. Well, thank you guys for listening, and as always, have a good thing. Comedy on Vinyl is a production of StolenDress Entertainment. It is produced by Mike Worden and is hosted and edited by Jason Klom. Our theme song was composed and performed by Richard Levinson. You can email us at podcast@comedyonvinyl.com. You can also send snail mail to StolenDress Entertainment, P.O. Box 805, Burbank, California, 91503. Subscribe to Comedy on Vinyl on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else you can find podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating and write us a review. It helps. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Comedy on Vinyl, or find everything in one place at comedyonvinyl.com. A major portion of Comedy on Vinyl has been underwritten by Stand Up Records. Please visit standuprecords.com for all your comedy needs and tune in to the new Stand Up Records channel available on the Roku, where you can also find select episodes of this podcast. Visit StolenDress.com to listen to our other podcasts, watch videos, and imbibe freely of our multimedia content going back 15 plus years.
National Broadcasting Cartel proudly presents Great Moments in Literature! A regular series devoted to the finest 2 minutes of Western civilization. I am your hostess for Great Moments in Literature, the beauteous but somewhat shaded Dame Margaret Waterford Closet. And once again, we are fortunate in having with us the Royal Dramatic Society of St. Peter-around-the-Bush to present probably one of the most famous scenes in all-world drama, the shooting of the apple from Friedrich Schiller's classic Wilhelm Tell in a facile, existential interpretation. As every literate individual is aware, the shooting of the apple scene from Friedrich Schiller's Wilhelm, translated into English that becomes Robespierre, Tell, marks the high-water point of suspense in the body of works known as the Sturm- und Drang-Schule, that is in English, the Storm and Drang School.